The Marina Rose wasn't just a club, it was a fortress dressed in velvet. Money and danger moved quietly through its marble corridors, both belonging to one man, Vince DeLuca. He sat in his usual corner, half-shadowed by the low amber light, pretending to read a report. In truth, he was watching the new accountant. Lena Morris. 29. Clean record. Hired 2 weeks ago to audit shell companies no one talked about. She carried herself like someone trying not to be seen, polite smile, soft voice, always sleeves rolled down even in the heat. Tonight, as she reached for a file, the cuff of her blouse slipped back just enough. A bruise showed beneath her watch, thin, fresh, deliberate. Vince's jaw tightened. He didn't look away. "Whoever touched you," he murmured, voice barely above the jazz drifting from the piano, already signed his death warrant. Sal, his right-hand man, leaned closer. "Want me to handle it?" "Not yet," Vince said. "Find out who she belongs to first." He watched Lena gather her papers, keeping her eyes low. The kind of woman who apologizes for taking up space. But even from a distance, he caught the flicker of calculation behind her quiet. Not weak, just wounded. When she left for the night, Vince waited until her taillights disappeared beyond the gate before speaking again. "Run her past," he ordered. "Family, addresses, police contacts. Discreetly. If someone's hurting her, I want a name before midnight." Sal nodded and left. Vince stayed. The jazz had ended, but its echo hung in the air, like the ghost of something he shouldn't care about. He stared at the untouched whiskey before him. In his world, curiosity was a liability, compassion worse. Yet something in that single bruise had already rewritten his priorities. By the time the club lights dimmed, the decision was made. If anyone laid a hand on Lena Morris again, they wouldn't live to regret it. By morning, Vince's men had what he needed: a name, a file, and a problem. Ray Malone. Narcotics detective. Lena Morris's ex-husband. Sal dropped the folder on the mahogany desk inside Vince's office at the Marina Rose. Divorced 2 years. No kids. She filed a restraining order, didn't hold. The guys connected. His uncle's Captain Frank Malone, your old contact in LAPD. Vince's expression didn't change, but the silence stretched. Frank's nephew, he repeated slowly. Figures. Word is, Ray's been hanging around her block, Sal continued. 3 nights this week. Parked, engine running. Watching her windows. Vince set his glass down, untouched. He thinks the badge makes him invisible. Exactly. Neighbors said he shows up drunk sometimes. She called 911 once, no response. The cigarette burned low between Vince's fingers. He crushed it out without looking away from the file. Get a tracker on his cruiser. Tap his phone if you can do it clean. I want his schedule, his habits, who he talks to after hours. Sal nodded, already moving. By noon, Vince found Lena in the accounting room. She was pale from the fluorescent light, hair pinned up neatly, pretending not to notice him. But the bruise on her wrist was still there, half hidden by her watch. "Miss Morris," he said evenly. "You're settling in?" She looked up, startled. "Yes, sir. I am." Her eyes flickered toward the doorway, as if expecting someone to appear. Vince noticed the tremor in her hand when she reached for a pen. "You live alone?" A pause. "Yes." He nodded once. "Keep it that way, at least for now." She hesitated, confusion flickering, but he was already turning away. That night, the city glowed below his balcony, restless and unaware. Sal reported in, voice low over the phone, cruisers tagged. His partner's on our payroll. We'll start feeding him locations. Vince's reflection in the glass looked tired, older than he remembered. Good. Don't touch him yet. I want to see how far he'll go. There was a beat of silence before Sal asked, and when he crosses the line? Vince's tone dropped, calm as a verdict. Then he learns what it costs to threaten someone under my protection. For the next week, Vince DeLuca moved the pieces like a man setting traps in the dark. No bullets. No noise. Only surveillance. Two of his men, Silva and Cortez, tailed Ray Malone in shifts. They planted a tracker beneath the wheel arch of his cruiser, a mic inside the dash. His partner, Detective Josh Avery, already worked for Vince, a quiet favor earned years ago with one envelope of cash and one erased charge. Every night, the data poured in. GPS pings. Audio fragments. Ray's voice, restless, slurred, angry. She thinks she's safe, he'd mutter, more to himself than to Avery. She forgot who she belongs to. Vince listened in silence from his office, the city glittering below like a map of opportunities and graves. He didn't look angry, he never did. But his hand tightened around the edge of his glass until the ice cracked. Obsession, he said quietly. That's what makes men sloppy. Avery fed him updates twice a day. Ray skipped 2 shifts. Visited a pawnshop in Inglewood. Met an unknown dealer behind a liquor store, cash exchanged for something unregistered. A gun, maybe. A warning. Let him keep moving, Vince ordered. The more he thinks he's hunting, the easier he is to corner. Meanwhile, Lena began to notice the changes she couldn't explain. The same dark sedan parked across the street when she left for work. A doorman at her building who suddenly seemed more alert. Her phone stopped receiving Ray's calls, all blocked without her doing. One morning she found an envelope slipped under her door. No name, no message. Inside, a single photograph, Ray Malone, handing a roll of cash to a man known in narcotics as a mid-level dealer. Her pulse raced as she studied the image. Someone was protecting her. But who, and why? At the Marina Rose, Vince kept his distance. He never mentioned the bruise again. Never asked if she'd received anything unusual. But when she passed his office, his gaze would find her briefly, calm, unreadable, yet heavy with unspoken understanding. That night, as she walked to her car, a shadow appeared near the curb. Ray. He leaned against her driver's door, eyes bloodshot, smile wrong. You're hard to find these days, he said softly. Guess new friends keep you busy. Go home, Ray. He stepped closer. You forget who helped you when no one else would? You think hiding behind numbers makes you clean? Lena's hand trembled on her keys. Before she could speak, headlights washed over them, 2 black sedans rolling slow down the narrow lane. Ray froze. The cars didn't stop, only slowed long enough for him to feel their presence. Then they passed, silent and deliberate. By the time Lena looked back, Ray was already walking away, muttering curses under his breath. Hey, hold on a second. If what I'm saying right now touched you, even a little. If you've ever felt small, unseen, or lost, I get you. Truly. You're not alone. And if you've got even a little bit of strength left, just grab your phone. Hit the like button, drop a few words in the comments. And subscribe. For you, it's just a second. But for me, it's a sign. A sign that there's someone out there. Someone real. Who's listening, who feels this too. Thank you for being here. Really. From the heart. All right, let's keep going. Upstairs, watching from the balcony of his private suite, Vince saw the whole thing. He didn't call her, didn't send anyone down. Just watched until she drove off safely. Then he turned to Sal. He's testing boundaries, Vince said. Next time, he won't stop at talking. Sal adjusted his earpiece. You want us to handle it? Not yet. I want leverage. Something that ends this without a single bullet traced back to me. Sal hesitated. She's starting to suspect. She's supposed to. Vince poured another drink, gaze fixed on the empty street. Fear makes people careful. Gratitude makes them loyal. She'll come to me when she's ready. The next morning, Lena arrived at work pale and quiet. On her desk, a sealed envelope marked internal review. Inside, a report detailing Ray's unsanctioned contacts with narcotics suspects. Anonymous source. Verified by federal task force. She stared at it for a long time, realizing the walls around her life were shifting, not closing in, but closing around her. Protecting her. Someone had drawn the net tight, and she was at the center of it. Ray Malone was losing control. The drinking had slowed, but paranoia replaced it. He'd stopped reporting to work, prowling instead through side streets, convinced every shadow carried eyes. He wasn't entirely wrong. Vince's men tracked everything: calls, movements, habits. The data from the cruiser's tracker painted a clear pattern: secret meetings, off-duty transactions, conversations that didn't sound like police work. Every night Vince listened to fragments of Ray's voice spilling through the recordings, bitter, restless, circling the same name. Lena. She thinks she's safe, Ray muttered in one. She thinks she can hide behind people like him. Vince didn't move, didn't speak. He just poured another drink, the glass steady in his hand. He's cracking, he said quietly. Good. Men who panic make noise. Then came the move Vince had been waiting for. On a Thursday morning, 2 internal affairs agents appeared at the Marina Rose offices. Suits, credentials, polite smiles. They asked for Lena Morris. Miss Morris, one began, tone rehearsed. We've received evidence suggesting you may have blackmailed Detective Ray Malone. Can you confirm any recent contact? Her pulse jumped. No. I haven't spoken to him in months. The agent slid a photo across the table, Lena withdrawing cash at an ATM. Detective Malone provided bank statements and messages implying you demanded hush money regarding his narcotics activity. Her throat went dry. Those messages are fake. We'll be in touch, the agent said, leaving her trembling at her desk. It was the perfect setup, except for one flaw. Ray's informant, Rico Torres, didn't work for him. He worked for everyone. Including the Bureau. Rico knew a sinking ship when he saw one. Instead of sending the forged texts to Internal Affairs as instructed, he rerouted them, straight to a federal contact who'd been watching Malone for months. By Monday, the story flipped. The Bureau intercepted the files and quietly launched a probe. Internal Affairs backed off, and whispers spread through the precinct that Malone was under investigation for off-duty cartel work. His own lies had become the evidence against him. When the file reached Vince's desk, he smiled faintly. He built his own coffin, he murmured. Sal leaned against the doorway. You going to close the lid? Not yet, Vince said. I want him breathing long enough to feel what drowning really means. 2 days later, Lena came to him. Pale, shaken, but composed. She stood in the doorway of his office like someone stepping onto dangerous ground. "They dropped the investigation," she said quietly. "The officers came back today. They said it was a misunderstanding." Vince didn't look up from the papers on his desk. "Good." Her voice trembled. "Was it you?" He met her eyes. "Would it matter?" Lena hesitated. Part of her wanted to thank him. The other part wanted to run. "I don't understand why you'd." "I don't like men who hurt women," Vince interrupted softly. "And I don't like cops who think their badge is armor." Silence stretched between them. Downstairs, jazz hummed faintly through the walls, low, steady, alive. Finally, she whispered, "What happens to him now?" Vince turned his glass slowly, watching the ice melt. "He's falling, Lena. I just made sure no one catches him." By the end of the week, Ray Malone's world had collapsed in slow motion. Internal Affairs suspended his clearance. The captain, his uncle, announced early retirement, citing health issues. His partner stopped returning calls. The department that once looked the other way now crossed the street to avoid him. And still, Vince didn't send anyone. He didn't need to. Every rumor, every whisper, every quiet rejection was another crack forming under Ray's feet. One night, Ray sat alone in his car, engine off, hands trembling around his badge. He didn't notice the unmarked sedan across the street. Inside it, Silva and Cortez recorded the moment he broke, the phone he threw, the gun he nearly reached for, the curse he screamed into the empty night. Sal sent the footage to Vince. Vince watched it once. Then closed the laptop. "Not yet," he said again. Let him feel the walls closing in. Outside, Los Angeles glowed, a city of lights built on secrets and debts. Somewhere in that maze, a broken detective still thought he could win. But Vince DeLuca already owned the board. And Lena Morris, without knowing it, had become the reason a man's empire of lies was about to burn. The headline hit every newsfeed before sunset. Detective Ray Malone under federal investigation for corruption and assault. Lena saw it first on the TV in the staff lounge. The image of Ray, unshaven, furious, froze her mid-sip. Around her, whispers rose. By the time Vince stepped into the doorway, the room had gone silent. "Turn that off," he said. The screen went black. "You knew," she murmured. "I knew it was coming." Her fingers tightened around the cup. "He's still a cop. They'll protect him." Vince shook his head. "Not after today." Internal Affairs dumped him, the captain resigned, and the bureau's building a case. "He's finished." She searched his face. "Was this you?" Vince met her eyes, calm. He set himself on fire. "I just opened the window." Lena tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. "Finally, I should feel safe." "You are," he said quietly. "For now." Across town, Ray sat in his uncle's office surrounded by boxes and silence. "You could have backed me," he growled. The captain didn't look up. "I warned you. You made your choices." Ray slammed his fist on the desk. "She ruined me." "No," the captain said. "You ruined yourself." The badge hit the floor with a metallic thud. 2 days later, Sal entered Vince's office with photos, Ray meeting a known broker behind an empty warehouse. "Same pattern," Sal said. "He's desperate." "Good," Vince replied. "Desperate men tell stories. Let him talk until no one listens." "You want to finish him?" "Not yet. He'll come for her first. Keep eyes on her building." That night, Lena heard the knock. 3 short raps, deliberate. She looked through the peephole. Ray. Lena, please, he rasped. Just talk to me. Go away. They're trying to kill me. You don't understand. Leave, Ray. A thud shook the door, then silence. Downstairs, a man in a maintenance jacket spoke softly into an earpiece, targets here. Sending coordinates. Vince got the message as he left the club. Call it in, he ordered. Anonymous tip. Attempted abduction, female victim. Give them the exact location. Sal hesitated. You sure? Yes. Let the feds write the ending. When the tactical units arrived, Ray was still outside Lena's door, shouting. The corridor erupted in chaos, shouts, lights, handcuffs. From a dark sedan across the street, Vince watched through tinted glass. He didn't smile, didn't move, only said, make sure the evidence finds its way to the bureau. Sal exhaled. That's all? That's justice, Vince said. His kind of justice. By morning, every channel had the story. Detective Ray Malone arrested for abduction and corruption. When Lena entered Vince's office, she carried the paper in her hand. It's over, she said. For him, Vince replied. Why help me? He studied her for a long moment. Because you don't hurt what's under my protection. Her breath caught. You mean me? Vince's tone stayed calm, almost gentle. Exactly. Outside, sirens wailed in the city haze. And Lena understood, she hadn't escaped danger. She'd only changed who it belonged to. Ray Malone had nothing left but rage. Suspended. Shamed. Abandoned by the department that once called him a hero. His uncle had retired overnight, his partner stopped answering calls. The badge was gone, but the anger stayed, pulsing like fever. He slept in motels now, moving every night, clutching a half-empty bottle and a gun he no longer had the right to carry. Every thought circled back to one name. Lena. If he couldn't have her, no one would. That thought drove him back to her building at 3 a.m. The street was empty, slick from rain. He checked his pocket, the old keychain she'd once given him, silver with her initials. He turned it in his palm like a prayer before sliding the spare key into his coat. Inside, Lena couldn't sleep. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. She'd lived the last weeks like a ghost, quiet, cautious, half waiting for something to break. The knock came softly, 3 times. Then the handle moved. Ray? He burst through before she could react, hand over her mouth, eyes wild. Don't scream, he hissed. We're leaving. Just like before. She twisted free, pushing him back. You need help. I need you. His voice cracked. That gangster's using you. You think he cares? He's protecting his property, not you. Get out. He raised his hand, but didn't get the chance to swing. Outside, across the street, a maintenance van idled with its lights off. Inside, Sal watched a blinking red on his tablet, the signal from a tracker their man had planted a week ago when Ray's car was under routine inspection. He's inside, Sal said. Vince sat beside him, expression unreadable. Call it in. You want me to? Not the police, Vince said. Our contact. The bureau will know what to do. Minutes later, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. In the apartment, Ray froze. What did you do? Lena shook her head, backing away. I didn't. The door exploded inward. FBI. Hands where we can see them. Blinding light filled the room. Ray spun, gun half raised, and stopped when he saw half a dozen red dots burning across his chest. For a moment, time held still. Then he dropped the weapon. Agents moved fast. One pulled Lena aside, another cuffed Ray as he shouted, "You don't know who you're dealing with. I'll bury you all." Outside, Vince listened through a radio feed connected to the surveillance team. He didn't smile, didn't blink, just watched the black van opposite her building as blue lights painted the street. Sal exhaled. Clean and perfect. You planned every inch of it. Vince's gaze stayed on the apartment window. He did most of the work himself. Sal nodded toward the monitor, where the blinking dot still pulsed. That tracker, your men put it on his keys? The night he tailed her from the club, Vince said quietly. He never noticed. By morning, every station had the same footage. Disgraced detective arrested in attempted kidnapping and corruption probe. The footage ran for 2 days. The city loved a fallen hero. The department released a statement. Federal agents praised an anonymous informant. No one mentioned Vince DeLuca. That evening, the Marina Rose hummed as usual, jazz, glasses, smoke. But when Lena entered Vince's office, she looked different. Still pale, but steady. "It's over," she said. "For him," Vince replied. She hesitated. "You could have had him killed. It would have been easier." "Quick isn't always clean," he said. "People forget bodies. They don't forget stories." She studied him. "You didn't just save me, did you?" Vince's eyes met hers. Calm. Sharp. "You already know the answer. You made sure I could never walk away." He rose, stepping closer. "I made sure no one touches you again." "That's the same thing." For a moment, they stood in silence, her pulse unsteady, his expression carved from restraint. Finally, he said, "You'll stay on payroll. Take a leave. Somewhere quiet. My driver will arrange it." "And if I don't?" "Then you'll still be protected," Vince said, voice low. "But I'll worry. And when I worry, things get messy." Lena drew a breath that wasn't quite fear and wasn't quite surrender. "You win, Vince." He smiled faintly. "No, Lena. I don't play to win. I play to keep what's mine." Later that night, he stood by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. Sal entered, holding the tablet with the blinking red light. "Should I shut it off?" he asked. Vince shook his head. "Leave it. Evidence lockers aren't forever. One day someone will notice." Sal frowned. "Why keep it alive?" Vince's voice was almost gentle. "Because nothing in this city ever really ends." Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline. Somewhere, deep inside a federal storage room, a small red light blinked steadily in the dark, patient, silent, waiting. The city forgot quickly. Headlines faded, officers transferred, cases closed. Ray Malone was just another scandal in a system built to bury its own. He sat alone in a federal cell, hands shaking as he replayed that night, the lights, the shouts, the cold click of cuffs. The trial would come, but the verdict was already written. His name was poison. His voice, meaningless. Some nights he whispered her name, not out of love but from habit. It was the only sound that made him feel human. Lena Morris disappeared quietly. Her apartment emptied overnight, her number disconnected. Rumor said she'd left the country, Italy, maybe. Others claimed Vince had her hidden somewhere under a new name. At the Marina Rose, no one asked. In Vince DeLuca's world, silence was loyalty. He came to the club less often now, spending long hours in his upstairs office, the same place where it had all begun. The photograph on his desk was the only trace she'd left, a corporate ID shot, half smile, eyes uncertain. Sal entered one night, holding a newspaper. Malone's sentencing next month. Vince didn't look up. Good. You think she'll ever call? Vince's gaze lingered on the photograph. If she's smart, no. Sal hesitated. And if she's not? Vince finally met his eyes, calm, steady, unreadable. Then she remembers who kept her breathing. He poured himself a drink, the ice catching the dim light. Somewhere below, the piano started again, low, slow, familiar. Outside, Los Angeles glimmered like nothing had ever happened. And when someone once asked Vince why he'd gone so far for a woman who wasn't his, he gave the only answer he ever would. You don't hurt what's mine.